I think nowadays people would think like, oh, competition creates negative vibes, right? Like, oh, there creates a hierarchy and kids feel bad if they don't succeed. But then you also realize, like, I mean, I watch a lot of anime, and the best thing for the main character is a good rival or a good adversary.
It's a good story.
It makes a good story, and it also allows the character to strive towards excellence. And I think the parent can be the adversary sometimes, even though it may be hard, it shapes you in a certain way, or the siblings, they contend.
Hello， 大家欢迎回到美乐迪家庭。今天我们在淡水 ，and for this video, I thought we'd switch it up a bit and let Vincent host the discussion. So, what did you want us to talk about today, Vin?
I thought, since now our whole family is very into Jordan Peterson, and I was actually the very first person to discover Jordan Peterson within our family, I thought we could discuss one of his bigger topics, which is integrating your shadow and how that applies to our individual selves and to our family. And yeah, what do you guys think?
Well, maybe first we should define what that means. What is integrating your shadow?
Sure. Yeah, so shadow could just be any, like, we all share the same shadow. It's human nature is shadow. I think if you look at history and like you look at Nazis or people who are really bad, like murderers and all of these thieves, and you're not willing to admit like, oh, if I was in that situation, I might probably would have committed the same crimes. And you think to yourself like, oh, there's no way. I'm a true moral being, and those people are shadows. You know what I mean? But then if you have a good, honest look at yourself and you realize like, hey, I'm just as capable of darkness as those people are. It not only gives you a little bit of humility, but it also empowers you, because then you realize, oh, I can be dangerous too. Because sometimes if you think you're just pure virtue and just good, and then the world comes at you with some like hardship, and then you think like, oh, I can't stand up to it because I'm just this like nice guy or a nice girl. But then integrating a shadow could also give you the capacity to realize like, oh, I could stand up to people. Like I can be just as scary as other people. And these emotions that I feel, rather than suppressing them, I can listen to them and use them as a catalyst for a change that I want to see in my life.
Jordan Peterson 有提到一个人叫做索忍尼辛啊，他是那个 Russia 的那个 writer， 他写了一个书叫做《古拉格群岛》。为什么？因为索忍尼辛啊，他被关到古拉格的这个 concentration camp， 那是一个 communism 的一个 concentration camp， 他们把很多的这些 political prisoner 都关到那里面去了。然后他就在那里面，他就写他自己的传记，他就在思考 what happened to this communism。他说他原来是一个 great supporter of this ideology， 可是后来就 get sour， 然后呢他自己就变成 victim 了，就被关起来了。后来他自己讲，他讲说，哦，原来是 I am the one who contribute to all this. I'm the one who contribute to my own suffering, to the suffering of the world. 因为我没有 stand up to tell the truth. 他说要讲 truth 还真的不是这么简单，但是你不去讲，那你可能就要 suffer.If
you apply it to 一个家庭，像如果有一个小孩子很闹 very like naughty kid, right? And the parents are trying to just all be nice and they don't know how to confront this kid. Because what happens is if the parent doesn't integrate his shadow, he can still be mean to the kid, but he won't see it as him being mean. He's just like, you're the one that's dark and I'm just reacting to it. I'm gonna lash out at you because of you. You know what I mean? It's you that's being the dark one.But then if a parent's mature enough and integrates like, I'm going to be this thing, but I'm not going to do it just out of response to it, but I'm going to be like, I'm going to be scary for something, that he can utilize this discipline and be scary to the kid and match the kid's energy correctly. You know what I mean? Because what happens is that a lot of the times if you don't integrate your shadow, it still comes out. It doesn't mean that your shadow's gone. It just means that it comes out in ways that you don't expect it to. But then if you're aware already of the capacity and you take responsibility over it, then you can do it more productively.
And I think that's the fine line right between discipline and punishment, like you were talking about, like disciplining our kids. Because I think especially in like this day and age where parents don't know how to discipline their kids, or like, I don't want to be mean to my kids because my parents were mean to me. I was like traumatized. I don't want to traumatize my kids, so they don't know how to like properly discipline their kids. So it's like that fine line, but also recognizing like if you don't discipline your kids, you're contributing to something probably even worse, you know, because then this kid's gonna eventually become like a menace to society. Yeah, so like how to properly integrate authority, how to properly integrate discipline rather than turning it into punishment.
Think about that, the shepherd breaking the lamb's foot.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay.
He likes that.
Tell more.
Oh! 我应该就是
Yeah, I was hoping you will save it.
I can't move faster than the speed of sound.
就是说，因为羊很容易走迷啦
Yeah.
because they are very short-sighted， 所以那个牧羊人啊，他有那个杖，还有那个杆，那个杖是用来打那个 animal 那个狼啊，但是有个杆，杆上面有个勾勾，他是要把那个羊啊走到那个 edge 把它拉回来。那可是有的时候他要 attend 就是一个 big flock of the sheep，right？ 那有一两只小羊或比较不成熟的 mature 的羊，常常会乱跑，然后一走丢掉，他就要放下99只，他要去找那一只回来。可是找回来这只羊可能也还会再乱跑。
Have you seen that GIF where they save the lamb out of the ditch
And
and then he just jumps into the ditch again?
Yeah, right away.
It's like the
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they don't. 他们就是不太学会。那 sometimes 那个 shepherd 啊，他就必须要 make a decision， 因为那个羊其实那个骨头还蛮容易接回来的。他有时候 sometimes 他把这个羊找到了以后，他要 break 他的一个 leg， 然后把它再 wrap 起来，然后让这个羊就没办法到处乱跑。然后等到这个羊稍微长大了以后，他就懂事了，然后他也就不会去伤害到更大的 group。就是说，这个牧羊人他把这个腿弄断，一方面也是在帮助这只小羊不会 get lost again， 然后另外一个他也要顾虑这个大群，不会说我为了你，我要常常要离开。
对那个小羊 is like
Yeah, I told you, 我以为你是爱我的，你怎么会这样对待我？
And you have to realize it's still traumatic. I think like as a parent, you still have to recognize when you hurt your kids or when you discipline your kids that they will probably take it as trauma and it might last with them for a lifetime. But you have to integrate it. It's just understanding it. Like if you just hurt your kids and you discipline your kids, but then you're not willing to admit that it may have hurt their feelings and you don't like acknowledge the fact that like you harmed them in a way, you know what I mean? Then it's not right either because then you're not willing to confront like what you really did. But just take responsibility. I think if you move responsibly and you're like, oh, I did do that, and you realize it's not perfect. Nothing we do can be perfect in that way, and just recognizing that,
sacrifice required. It reminds me of like Jordan Peterson. He said growing up he didn't have like the best relationship with his dad, or it was kind of complicated, and so when he was like 17 or something, he like left home, and then his mom was telling him like, well, maybe it's for the best, because if home was too good you would never leave. So it's like in order for a child to grow up, maybe sometimes they have to leave because of not the best reasons, but it does allow them to enter into the next stage of maturity. So it's like almost required in a sense.
Yeah. But one thing that's interesting is like, I think nowadays people will think like, oh, competition creates negative vibes, right? Like, oh, there creates a hierarchy and kids feel bad if they don't succeed. But then you also realize like, I mean, I watch a lot of anime and the best thing for the main character is a good rival or a good adversary.
It's a good story.
It makes a good story, and it also allows the character to strive towards excellence. And I think the parent can be the adversary sometimes, even though it may be hard, it shapes you in a certain way, or the siblings, they contend, you know what I mean? It's like also like that verse you said.
Oh yeah, a friend is made to love at all times, but a brother is born for adversity.
患难而生.
Which is pretty trippy. I feel like you could reverse that and some people would agree. But who knows? I feel like it's true. I think family is the better adversary, because it's like no matter what the vibe is, it's still out of family, which is rooted in love.
Amen.
And I think that's important. That's why family can have a shadow. I feel like most people experience their most negative feelings through their family, but that's also why it messes them up so much, because it's also their source of love and comfort. So I think the source of love and comfort is sometimes where the shadow can be manifested the most. It's because it's like you're confronted with the real them. You also get to be your most messed up self to them. You know what I mean? And you got to recognize that.
有时候真的不是说谁对谁错，或者谁好谁坏，不是说oh my suffer is real, your suffer is wrong. If you try to explain, then where's the solution? Maybe let's just embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace your suffering, but we still love each other out of this, right? Yeah. 我想到你们做那个影片，然后 Vincent 说姐姐教我数学，
姐姐都照顾我. She would take care of me a lot. She would teach me stuff. But her teaching me stuff got kind of crazy. I remember when she was trying to teach me math, it got pretty crazy. She ended up like chasing me around the house, and I remember she had a knife or something. It's just like,
I think it was a sharpened pencil.
A sharpened pencil. Okay, there.
Vincent 说姐姐教我数学，结果你怎么教他都不会。你说他拿刀子追你，然后姐姐说我没有拿刀子，我是拿一个 sharpened pencil。
Yeah.
那你说姐姐其实也是为了 Vincent 的好吧？就是说 ，Why you don't understand? Let me stab you to let you understand how much I love you.
Let's try fear.
Maybe fear will inspire you.
I just start like understanding all the math. Like, oh, math makes sense now. Thank you, Melody.
然后我就在想啊，你知道你那个歌啊，你们两个不是你唱那个叫做什么 Hero? I need a hero.
I need a hero. I'm holding out for a hero till the morning light.
其实我有在想啊，如果没有这些 rivalry 或者是这些 adversary， 哪来的 hero？ 在一个家里面，大家都I love you, you love me. Okay, we are happy family. Then there's no hero in this.
And sometimes, what happens is even if there is a family that is all I love you, thing, then the kid actually doesn't know how to confront adversary.
Yeah.
And then when the moment they have a husband or they have friends or something that actually confronts them, then they don't know how to respond to it, and then they don't integrate their shadow. So that's why I think having siblings is very helpful. Like if you're an only child, you only experience that with your parents, you know what I mean? But then if you have a equal, then you start to understand how to negotiate and how to understand each other on a deeper level and understand I didn't realize I was capable of acting so negative towards people and they didn't realize. So it's a learning experience for everyone. I think if there's no enemy in your household and there's no one you can contend with, then you're going to find that within the world, and it's still going to just be equally as hard. So either way, you have to learn how to integrate your shadow, because there's shadows all around us. So you got to realize you're a part of it and things like that.
This was something that I shared with Mama Baba recently too, because I heard a Jordan Peterson podcast where it's not that parents shouldn't fight in front of their kids. Children are allowed to witness you and your partner having a disagreement, but the important thing is that they also see how you reconcile. Because I think a lot of parents are like, never fight in front of our kids. So I actually have friends who are like, I never saw my parents fight. I never saw them get in an argument. I'm like, what? Like, are they even human? But then I also see how that childhood affects these kids. These kids that tell me their parents never fought, I do feel like sometimes they're not very good at communicating with people. Like, they're not very good at dealing with disagreement because they never had an example of disagreement leading to reconciliation. So the point isn't don't fight. The point is fight, but reconcile.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about that journey and that process. But as long as there's a reconciliation, that whole process is good. Then they learn how to integrate the shadow. They learn how to deal with the adversary.
Yeah. I think it's funny Baba said they're not real, because when you're having a heart-to-heart with someone, you want to say be real with me. You know what I mean? Be a real person. Don't be this symbol of whatever concept that you think you are, you want to be. Be who you are. Say what you mean. I want to hear what you think. Don't say what you think you're supposed to think. You know what I mean?
Don't try to project to me what you want to project to me.
Exactly.
I want to see the real you.
I want to have a real conversation.
But do you think that's because we're used to that? Because we're
very
real. But maybe some people they actually want you to just tell me what I want to hear, you know?
Time and place. There's a time and place for everything. You know what I mean? That's why friends, they say friends is unconditional love. Sometimes I go to my friends just to be comforted.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I think it's good to have that affirmation and to be seen and to be affirmed. That's all very important. You know what I mean? But then I think also to be real, you need that as well. So yeah, it's a good discussion. Yeah.
And maybe that's a good place to end this video.
I think so. I love you guys.
You guys.
Good job. I love all parts of you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.